Hello there. I'm going to talk about chart plotters for a few minutes. We've all got them, haven't we? And we love them. I love mine. It's miraculous. It does all sorts of amazing things. But there's one thing it won't do, and that is I can't navigate traditionally on it. If I want to plot a fix or work up a course to steer or something, it's not very good for that. In fact, you can't do it because you can't put lines on it. You might manage to put one on, or to an extreme case, two on some plotters, but that's it. You can't do what you used to be able to do on a paper chart. Well, so long as GPS continues doing its stuff, that doesn't really matter, does it? Because the GPS fix is generally speaking pretty good, and it sits the boat on the chart. We've got what we need. But there's an essential problem here, which you may or may not have thought about. Navigation from the time of the Vikings has relied on input from more than one source. You're always corroborating something with something else. Do you remember in the old days when we used to plot a 3-point fix? You'd put it down on the chart, and just to make sure, you'd hit the echo sounder as well and make sure the depth stacked up with where you thought you were. That's the sort of thing that makes navigation safe. Now, with a plotter, you can't do that. You've only got one source of information, and it's GPS. We used to say, oh, well, of course, plotters are all very fine, but what happens when Cousin Cuthbert kicks the aerial over, or you run out of batteries, or a large wave breaks over your solitary receiver? Well, that's all history, isn't it? Because we've got them all over the place now. I've got 3 or 4 plotters on my boat, probably more. I've got one on my phone. That's not going to happen, is it? So there's no problem there. However, world politics is changing, isn't it? I sail in the Baltic, and last season, that was 2024, a number of Swedish yachtsmen said to me that their plotter had stopped giving them a fix. Now, this is all to do with Russia and the war in Ukraine, I suspect. We don't know. We don't want to point the finger at anybody. But the fact is that we are totally reliant on a system that is essentially put up there for the military, and the military are getting pretty busy. So there is a possibility we may lose it. If we do, unless we got a good paper chart that's up to date and it's got all the detail we need on it, and we've run our paper logbook, well, not to put too fine a point on it, we're stuffed, aren't we? So AngelNav, this app which my mate and I have developed, takes care of that, because all the charts you need are inside the plotter. The plotter's on an iPad, and all the charts that you need are in there, and they're all up to date. They're automatically updated every 3 months. So you know that your charts are okay. You've got what you need, and you can plot on them. You can plot lines on them. You can make a fix, course to steer, an estimated position, anything you like, and just carry on as though you were plotting on paper. You've got your hand bearing compass, or I hope you have. I certainly have. It's tucked inside the companionway. It's gathering dust, really, but it's there when I need it. And when I do need it, out it comes, position lines down on the chart, and you can carry on. Just to remind anybody who's actually got AngelNav, or perhaps who's been thinking about it, or who saw the video 2 years ago and has forgotten all about it, I'm just going to pop up 2 or 3 little videos that show you how it works in the basic form. But things have moved on. We've put all sorts of extra stuff on there, which is rather exciting. And again, there are things on there that I don't think you'll find anywhere else. So here's how it goes. Let's start with a fix. First of all, I identify my objects just as I would on the paper chart, and I can see what I've got here. I might just zoom in a little bit to make sure that one is Bournemouth Pier, which is the one I've been looking at. Okay, now I double tap on the chart for my first position line. And I see that it says add chart work. That's what I want to do. And I want to choose position line. So I click on that, and then I grab the position line that's appeared using this blue handle and move it around until I get the first bit on where I've taken my bearing and the second bit on the actual bearing, which is going to be 320 true. There it is. We let go of the position line, and after a while it will end up just as a plot on the chart. You'll notice that the line is fairly short. It doesn't go all the way to Bournemouth Pier. That's because I have done it that way myself when I've created this program. I don't like to see pencil lines all over the chart. You just want it the length that you want it, no more and no less. And that seems to work well. So next position line is going to be on handfast point, down in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. Now I'm going to add 2 more position lines from my hand-bearing compass in the traditional manner, and I'm ready to go. That's my fix, and from there I work out my course to steer to get to where I want to go. We're sailing out of Brighton Marina towards France, and we're doing about 5.5 knots, and we've been out for 2 hours. We want to plot an estimated position. Here's how we're going to do it. We start off by double tapping on the chart, and we get our little box which offers us our options, one of which is add chart work near the bottom. We press that, and looking at the next box up, the option it now gives us is estimated position near the top. So if I tap on that, it gives me a rough estimated position to play with. Now I'm going to grab this line by the blue handle, and I'm going to put it in the entrance to Brighton Marina. It's got me steering 155. I think we'll steer 160, and we're doing 5.5 knots, which means we've done 11 miles. There we are. Now then, what about the tide? That's the crucial thing, isn't it? The tide is moving up channel at 2 knots, so it's going to have done 4 miles in the 2 hours that we've been going. So I've got that information out of my almanac, and I'm confident in it. So to plot it, I'm going to tap on the 3 arrows that always are set on the tide line. That's how you know it's a tide line, because it's got 3 arrows on it. We'll tap on that, and we get more handles. So we want 4 miles going up channel like that. And that is our estimated position. There it is, 16:25. We can put that in the logbook, and we're ready to rock and roll. We're approaching Dartmouth. The chart work we want to add is a course to steer. So we click on that, and we get something that doesn't seem to make any sense at all. Well, the first thing we want to adjust on here is the actual track. The track, you'll recall, is the one that has 2 arrows on it. So we just put our finger on the track, and we get some nice little blue handles again. We're going to Dartmouth, so we'll put him there. There he is. That's the track's in place now. Now, what about the tide? Well, the tide has 3 arrows. So if we want to adjust the tide, let's say we've had a look in our almanac, and we've found that the tide is moving up channel in an easterly direction, a bit north of east, at 2 knots. So we'll put 1 tap on our tide line, and then we move him a little bit north of east, and we make him 2 knots long. There he is. All we now have to do is decide how fast we're going, and AngelNav will do the rest for us. At the moment, it's got us doing 8.4 knots. Well, that would be very nice, wouldn't it, for most of us with sailing boats? But mine's only going to be doing, well, let's give it 6.5 knots. I've got a grand broad reach. So I will tap once on the arrow. I'll grab this chap and move him down the line till I get to 6.5 knots. And there's my answer. I must steer 314 degrees true. And if I stick to 6.5 knots, it'll get me nicely in to within, well within visual range of Dartmouth. I'll be able to set up a visual transit and go in from there. Okay, that's what you might call the USP of AngelNav. The fact that you can plot on the chart in the event of not wanting to use GPS or not having GPS. Now then, you'll have noticed that the charts we're using there are raster charts. For those who don't know, a raster chart is basically, it's a paper chart, except it's on the screen. It has all the features that you're used to seeing on a paper chart. It is effectively a scan of a paper chart, but it's georeferenced, which means the boat sails across it just as it does on a vector chart, the sort of chart we are used to seeing on our chart plotters. The basic advantage from the raster chart point of view for AngelNav is that because it's got all the features that we normally see, church towers, group of trees, mountain top, we can use it for taking bearings. You can't do that with a vector chart because most of the leisure vector charts have removed all this stuff, so that all you're seeing is the land and the sea. So you can't plot on them even if you want to. We're going to use raster charts with Angel as long as we can. They are going to be phased out by the authorities. Just don't go there and ask me why. I beg to wonder why, but they are, probably for reasons of cost. But when they go, we have a plan. We've got something in line coming on stream that will deal with that situation, but we're not going to talk about that at the moment. We're going to move on to the fact that when you were looking at those videos, you'd notice that I kept referring to the almanac to get the tidal information. Well, that's all history now. We've dealt with that. We now have tides, both heights and streams, on the app. And all the data is drawn from official sources. In the home waters here, it's UKHO. And that's the best data that's available. I've noticed when I'm using my plotters for tidal information, very often two plotters will give a different answer. Well, the answer you're going to get from Angel is the one that you'd get from the Admiralty, so you can rely on that. The delivery is very simple, and I'm going to show you what it is now. Here we go. I think the best way of showing the tides on AngelNav is to do what I suppose you'd do with any plotter. We'll pull up a chart so we can see what it looks like. Well, here we are. We've got the chart of Portland Bill here, which is a jolly place halfway along the English Channel on the English side. It produces the most prodigious tide race, and we'll have a look at that in a minute. But the tidal height range is not that great. But I'm going to zoom out on the chart so that we can see Portland Harbour, because I'm going to look at the tidal heights in this area. And to do that, I'm going to press this little button in the top right hand corner that's got 3 dots on it. There we go. At the bottom of the menu it says show tides, so I'm going to click on that, and up towards Portland Harbour we've got a tidal height icon. If I click on that, up it comes. At the moment it's 2:15 in Portland Harbour and the tide is 0.2 metres above datum. So that's not much of a tide, is it? Let's see what happens as we go along. Actually, it's interesting to note how long the tide has been at low water. Look, it was plus 0.1 metre at 11:30 and it stayed right down until 3:30. And you can actually see the tide coming and going a little bit during that period. Now, there are not many plotters that will show you that, and this is proper Admiralty data. So that's good, isn't it? So as we go along, we move the slider along and we see that high water is at about 7:30 and it's 2.1 metres. The actual numbers are at the top of the screen if you want to see them. If you want to look at another day, you click the little blue arrows, and 14th of April, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, and so on. And we can still move the slider so we can make a prediction of the tide we're expecting on another day. Now then, what's really exciting here is the tidal streams. So let's have a look at those. We'll get rid of this tidal height diagram simply by clicking on the top, shoving it out of the way, and away it goes. I'm going to move the chart up so that we can see what's going to happen around the point of the bill, the pitch of the bill as we call it. And at that point you can see, if you can read the small print, it tells you that we've got Portland Ledge and we've got a race on the east going stream and a race on the west going stream. Down at the bottom here, having dialed up tides, you can see that there's a little icon for streams. We've come into the chart at 12:15 GMT today, and we see that the tide is doing 2.6 knots past the headland and 2.2 knots a mile or two offshore. If we move the tide on an hour, simply by pressing the blue onward button at the bottom of the page, we can see the tide is starting to wind up. If we go up again to 2:15, it's doing 5.6 knots past the pitch of the bill, and out offshore it's doing 6.6. Try motoring against that in a small boat, and out there the seas will be prodigious. If we just zoom in a little bit so that we can see the native scale of the chart, we can see that there are overfalls all over the place here, because the tide is meeting the shallow water as it comes down the channel. It's also meeting the tide being set south down the side of the bill, and it's a desperate place. You can find these in the Tidal Stream Atlas, but of course you've got to open the page, you've got to write in with your pencil what time it means. With AngelNav it's immediately obvious, and it's right here on your iPad. Something else that's new on AngelNav, and something that we've taken very seriously indeed, is the quality of GPS itself. Now, we've already mentioned in this video the question of politics and what's likely to happen to GPS in the increasingly warlike environment in which we live. So we've taken care of that, essentially. We can't make GPS come back if it goes away, but we can let everybody know exactly where they stand, and that's going to be more than useful. So there are two issues here. The first is GPS jamming. Now, that's been happening in the Baltic in recent years, and particularly last season. What happens is your GPS just sort of disappears, but for a while you don't know it's disappeared, and you might be led up a gum tree. So we've dealt with that. You can see when it's going, and I'll show you how. We've also given you a system for showing just how good your GPS signal is right now. And if your GPS gets spoofed, that is to say, this is the worst one of all really, when it's spoofed, it lifts your boat on the chart and puts it somewhere else, so that you think you're somewhere you're not, or you think you're not somewhere you are. Take your pick, but either is pretty horrible. So AngelNav will sort that out for you as well. And here's how it works. So here we are, sailing down the Percule River in the West Country of England. If you look at the top of the screen, you'll see that there's a little green light flashing next to the question mark. That is the GPS light, and that tells us that the GPS is up and running, and every little green flash tells us it's getting a fix. Now then, if we want to have a better look at GPS, we can tap on that, and look what happens. We get a whole little box that gives us chapter and verse on what's really going on. It's looking at 12 satellites. It's got an HDOP, that's horizontal dilution of position, which to you and me means how accurate is it, of 0.8 meters. And it's working on differential GPS. So long as that little pointer is in the green, you're fine. If it goes into the red, you've got to start wondering. Now, what about if the GPS is jammed? Well, what's going to happen first is that the little green light will go out, and then something's going to happen to the boat. There we are. The boat's gone pale blue and the little green light's gone out. That means the GPS is being jammed, and our situation is no longer as sure as it was. We can't rely on GPS at the moment until the boat goes blue again. Right, we've got our blue boat back and we're on our way. Now, what's going to happen if we get GPS spoofed? GPS spoofing, remember, is where the boat appears to be where it's not. There she blows. Suddenly, the boat isn't where it was, and it's got a warning ring round it, which we can't miss. And if you see that, there's no doubt at all that you can't rely on it. So, that's AngelNav for the 2025 season. Marvellous, isn't it? It works on iPads and iPhones only. We can't sort out the Android version. We've been trying, and it's taking a lot of time and a lot of effort. We haven't given up, but it's not there yet. Sorry about that, guys. But if you're on Apple, you're home free. Now then, we've got lots more features on there that I haven't really had time to go into. One of the wonderful things you can do with it is produce satellite charts. I'm just putting one up here so that you can see. I shot this one last season. I was going into this harbour and the chart wasn't very good. And I didn't know really what the situation was going to be with it. So I thought I'd just get a satellite look at it. So I did. And here's the chart. And I'm on my way in. Instant and immediate. And you can do it anywhere on the planet. So if you want to get a good look at a reef somewhere or whatever it is you need, there it is. You've got it at your fingertips. Help yourself. You can buy charts for most places now. Obviously, home waters GB, no problem. Northern Europe's okay. The Mediterranean we now have organised. The Pacific we can do. The Caribbean. In the US, so long as you can still lay hands on the Raster charts, it'll work. Because remember, at the moment it's working on Raster charts. it's the complete navigation package, really. It combines electronics with traditional methods. Top class electronics too. This is UKHO stuff. This is not any old stuff. It's the business. And you can navigate properly on it, as we've seen, which means that you're covered in the event of GPS going down. And anyway, it's fun, isn't it? It's nice to get out your hand-bearing compass and put a fix on the chart and see how good it is. See if it's as good as the one you got from the GPS. The GPS is there because the boat's sailing along. See where it really is. See if it works. Good fun. Anyway, look, that's it. I'm going to leave you now. It's been a long video, but thanks for watching. And I hope you enjoy AngelNav. To get onto it, the details are coming up on the screen now. So get on the internet, wind up your iPad and have fun.